Hi guys, so we'll continue with the lesson 3 from our first chapter entitled Deploying and Managing Microsoft Exchange Server 2013. We have seen until now the module 1, Exchange Server 2013, pre-request and requirement. Then we have seen the Exchange Server 2013 deployment. For the deployment, we have seen that we can use the wizard, and we can also use the configuration, what we call inattended mode. So using some syntax in order to execute the installation of Exchange Server 2013 using the inattended mode. As we said before, we can use the setup wizard, or we can use also inattended mode. That means we will use some instruction in order to our commands in order to install the Exchange Server 2013. The essential commands are setup. Then we give some option like the mode, the role, client or mail, client access or mailbox, and the organization. Always we must add the option I accept Exchange Server license terms. So this is for the module 2. We will continue with module 3. So after accomplishing this lesson, you will be able to manage Exchange Server 2013, describe Exchange Server Administration Center, manage user mailbox property with Outlook web application, describe window PowerShell, describe the window PowerShell syntax, describe how to access help in window PowerShell, and describe Exchange management shell, and perform management shell administration examples, and use Exchange administration tools to manage Exchange. So here we have the method for Exchange Server Management, Exchange Administration Center, Outlook Web options, or Exchange Management Shell. So this is the Exchange Administration Center, or what we call EAC, Exchange Server Administration Center. So we have some option here. You have it is web-based console, so we can access to this configuration using a web browser, and you can manage your Exchange Server 2013 using this administration center. As we said before, in order to administrate the Exchange Server, we can use the Exchange Server Administration Center, which is web-based console that is used for managing your Exchange Server 2013 deployment. It is a graphical console that allow you to manage both and optimize on-premise Exchange Server and an Exchange Online or hybrid Exchange deployment. So this console is a replacement of the Exchange Management Console, which exists in Exchange Server 2007 and 2010, and for the Exchange Control Panel, ECP. So this is for, so here we have some files that we can use to manage the component of, for example, recipient, permission, For example, for recipients, the node, you will use it to manage mailboxes, groups, resource, mailbox, contacts, shared mailbox, and mailbox migration and moves. For the permission, the node contains the node contains option for managing administrator roles, users role, and Outlook web application policy. You can also find compliance management, organization, protection, mail flow, and mobile. Also public folder, unified messaging servers, and hybrid. So this is for the EAC. Now, the property to managing user mailbox with Outlook web application. Users can manage the following feature by using Outlook web application. So you can use Outlook web application to manage, for example, Outlook web application settings, manage inbox rules, message tracking, manage site mailboxes, manage mobile devices, manage text messaging, group membership, recover deleted message, block and allow list, change their password, and manage apps. So this is the feature that you can use. So now we will see how to use the Windows PowerShell and what are the privilege and property that you can manage with Windows PowerShell. So PowerShell is an object-based management environment. That means you can use command in order to manage Windows Exchange Server, a lot of feature. Also, PowerShell is an engine that enable administrator to create automation script. Automation script make it easier to, for example, make a configuration, for example, for a wide manufacturer or wide network, perform batch modification, and access in available settings. PowerShell provides a foundation upon which the graphical user interface-based administrative tools of Microsoft can rest. Action can be accomplished in its command line console, and action can be invoked within graphical user interface by running PowerShell commands in the background. So you can use a graphical user interface that call PowerShell commands or script in the background. So this is the feature that you can use with the PowerShell. So now we will see how to write commands or commandlet in PowerShell. So commandlet name are pairing of verbs and nouns such as, for example, get. You have get, set, and new. So you have the verbs get, set, and new. For example, to retrieve a list of user, you would use the commandlet get dash user. Get dash user. This standardized naming convention is designed to enable users to more easily remember how to perform administrative tasks. For example, to change the settings of mailbox. For example, to change the settings of mailbox, you can use the commandlet set then mailbox. Optionally, or more parameter can be used with the commandlet to modify its behavior or specify settings when you type commandlet on a command line. The parameters are entered after the commandlet name. For example, here you have what we call noun, event log, execution policy, virtual machine. So here you have some example of commandlet. You have some example here of commandlet. For example, get event log, set execution policy in new virtual machine. So use commandlet parameter to modify action and provide configuration information. Parameters, for example, include the name, for example, event log system, username, for example, John, switch, for example, verbose, debug, confirm. Also, you have optionally, or one more parameter can be used with the commandlet to modify its behavior or specify settings. So parameters that are common to many commandlet include options to test the action of the commandlet or to generate verbose information about the execution of commandlet. Common parameters include, for example, verbose. When we use dash verbose, this parameter displays detailed information about the performed command. So when we use verbose, it gives the detailed information. When we use, for example, what if, so this parameter display the outcome of running the command without actually running it. So it gives the output without what if. It sounds the same idea. That's mean when we execute this command, what is the output? But without executing it really. What if? Then we can use also confirm. So this parameter display a confirmation prompt before executing the command. So confirm will display a confirmation before executing really the commandlet. Debug in order to debug and find what is wrong in your work, or how it gives the result step by step. So this is for in order to access to the help in PowerShell, we can use get help. For example, to access the help documentation, you can run get help followed by the commandlet name, or run the commandlet name followed by the dash help parameter. For example, you can use get help, for example, for this is the commandlet get event log, or you can use the commandlet get event log, then to get the help use dash help. So this is a two manner, or two this is the first way, or how to get help, this is the second way. So get help has parameter to adjust the amount of help displayed. This parameter include detailed, for example, detailed information about the commandlet, or example. It can give you some example of the commandlet, the full help, or online help. Other commandlet that you can use for accessing help include update help, show command, get command, and tab completion. For example, to run a list of all commandlet that include virtual machine in the commandlet name, you could run get command and star VM star VM in order to find the commandlet that include VM. As you know, for the script, star means any character before, and star after means any character after, or string after. So what is Exchange Management Shell? For Exchange Management Shell is a command line interface for administering Exchange Server 2013. Exchange Management Shell include the following feature: provide more than several hundred commandlet for Exchange Server 2013 administration, offer an extensible scripting engine, and apply airbag permission. So this is for Exchange Management Shell. We have here an example. For example, Exchange Management Shell administration example. For example, enable mailbox identity. So in Exchange Management Shell, you can use get help also. When, for example, typing a commandlet, it is very useful to use tab key. So when you use tab key, it auto completion. Exchange Management Shell support command completion by using tab key. All you must is to type the first few letters for a commandlet, and then press the tab key to complete the commands. You can also use what if. You can use also confirm, debug, and so on. You have here some example. For example, here you have enable mailbox identity at the top part. You can use also new mailbox export request mailbox part. We can use the file path and we give the destination. Then get mailbox statistic in order to get the mailbox statistic. Database mailbox database. For example, here when we use also enable mailbox identity at the top bar database mailbox. So this command enable a mailbox for an existing Active Directory user. For example, Bart, this is the username, with the domain and alias combination at the top /Bart, by creating a mailbox in the mailbox database named mailbox database. You have here some example also. For example, if you use new dynamic distribution group, for example, when you use new dynamic distribution group name DDG alias organization unit, so you include recipient. So this command create a query based dynamic distribution group. So the name of this group will be the DDG that is located in organization unit or OU and has the alias DDG alias. For example, also you can use new. As we said before, we can use get, set, or new. For example, new move request identity user1. For example, for this command, new move request identity user1 and target database executive. So this command create a move request for the mailbox associated with the alias user1 to the mailbox database named executives. So we'll change the mailbox associated with the alias user1 to the mailbox database named executive. At the end of this chapter, we will see an example or a video. So this is a demonstration using Exchange administration tools to manage Exchange. So here I will. So for these demonstration steps, so in London One Exchange One, review the option in the Exchange Admin Center, create the mailbox for the user item, log on the Outlook web application item, review the option in the Outlook web application for a non-administrative user. From the Exchange Management Chat, execute the following commandlet: get command. So this is get the command mailbox. That's mean we'll search for any command that contain mailbox. As we said before, star means any string before, and star here any string after. Get mailbox item, format list alias quota. Enable make contact identity John Wood alias Wood. External email address, for example, woods@atom.com. And for example, we will execute also get mailbox statistic, for example, server London Exchange One, get recipient type user mailbox, and a new mailbox database name atom execution server, for example, London Exchange One. So here we have a video. Maybe I will. It is easy to find this video in the net. You have you can search for the demonstration using Exchange administration tools to manage Exchange. Always you can find it in YouTube. Just you type the title for this demonstration. I will present the video. So as we said before, this video presents a demonstration to use Exchange administration tool to manage Exchange. So on London Exchange One, review the option in the Exchange Administration Center. So here to access ECP, so here London Exchange One at atom.com. So this is for the Exchange Administration Center account at atom admin administrator. We log in, then you can see the option. Then for the Exchange Administration Center, you have recipient, permission, complaint management, organization, protection, mail flow, mobile, public folder, initiate messaging, server, and hybrid. This is the at the left side, you have the list. Then create mailbox for the user item. So how to create? So we have here from mailbox, user mailbox. We will add the sign here, the sign plus here. Just you click and you choose new mailbox. So here you have the new user mailbox. You can give the alias. You have said the alias item. We choose which user directly. Then we click save. Now we will log on to Outlook web application as item. So the Exchange server, then the user will use item. Here you have the account for this alias item. So item Delaney. So review the option in Outlook web application for a non-administrative user. So that's why we log in as item. So from the Exchange management shell, execute the following command. So command mailbox, get command mailbox. And so we have here the all information about also the application, installed application. Now we want to, from Exchange server management shell, we will execute the command get command, then mailbox, get mailbox item format list alias, and so on. So we go to the application, then Exchange management shell. So here administrator Exchange management shell. Then we type, for example, get command mailbox star mailbox star. All commands containing mailbox, as you see here, it gives all commands containing mailbox. All commands. So here you can remove, for example, here mailbox export request, resume mailbox, set mailbox audit bypass action, set mailbox database, set mailbox database copy, and so on. So now get mailbox item format list alias quota. Also enable mail contact identity John Wood alias Woods. So you use the alias Woods. External email address and woods@tom.com. So here we have the name, the alias, and recipient type. so mail contact because it gives the mail. Then we have get mailbox statistics server London Exchange 1. So here an statistics about the server London Exchange 1. So we have seen some parameters. So in place archive here, IDEN DNA Microsoft Exchange. So here you have system mailbox 1, Microsoft Exchange, health mailbox, and you have the last logon time. Let's see here. Then, for example, the command get recipient type user mailbox. So it gives the recipient, for example, administrator or IDEN Illinois, and discovery search mailbox. All of these are user mailbox. And this is the last command. This is, so new mailbox database name at the top execution server London execution 1. So here you have the name at the top exec, the server London exchange 1, recovery without recovery, and replication type no replication. So you have here warning, please restart the Microsoft Exchange information store service on server London Exchange 1 after adding a new mailbox database. So this is for this demonstration. Now we finish the first chapter. This is the end of the first chapter. Now we will begin a new chapter and a new module, chapter 2. So module 2 concerning the planning and configuring mailbox server. So this is for module 1. Now for module 2, planning and configuring mailbox servers. We'll have 3 lessons in this chapter. So the key component of the Microsoft Exchange Server 2013 infrastructure is the mailbox server. So this is the kernel or the main or the essential component of Microsoft Exchange Server, which hosts mailbox database and address book, handles message transport and routing, and provide unified messaging services. When you plan an Exchange 2013 deployment, it is very important to consider all aspects of your deployment that can affect the mailbox server roles design. In this module, we will talk about planning and configuring the mailbox server role. So we'll deal with how to plan and configure the mailbox server. For this module, our objectives are to describe the mailbox server role, plan for a mailbox server role deployment, and configure the mailbox servers. So we have three lessons. Lesson 1, overview of the mailbox server role. Lesson 2 deals with planning the mailbox server deployment. And lesson 3, how to configure the mailbox server. We begin with the lesson 1, overview of the mailbox server role. So as we said before, the mailbox server role provides a storage solution for most of the data with which Exchange server works. It hosts user mailbox, public folders, addresses lists, and other type of data. In Exchange Server 2013, most functionality such as message transparent and unified messaging is located on the mailbox server role. Therefore, it is very important to properly plan and deploy this role. We aim to describe the mailbox server role in Exchange 2013, describe how mailbox server role interact with the client server and the client access server role, describe the mailbox store in Exchange 2013, describe database log consideration, and describe how the mailbox database is updated, and describe the storage option for the mailbox database, and describe how to import and export data from the mailbox database. So in the mailbox server, in Exchange Server 2013, the mailbox server role provides hosting for mailbox database, hosting for public folder, transport and message routing service. It provides transport and message routing service. So we have Hub transport transport service, mailbox transport service for the unified messaging service and high availability service. So the most functionality of the internal message transport and routing previously hosted on the hub transport server is now located on the mailbox server role. So the hub transport service running on the mailbox server role handles all internal simple mail transport protocol SMTP and perform message recognition and content inspection. So it controls the mailbox and recognize message. In addition to this service, there are two more transport services that run on the mailbox server role. For example, you have mailbox transport submission and mailbox transport delivery. So we have two mailbox server roles, mailbox transport submissions and mailbox transport delivery. These two services communicate with the hub transport service to send message to other servers, and also with the mailbox database to retrieve or submit data to the database. The unified messaging server role, which previously existed as a separate server role, is now also integrated with the mailbox server role. So the mailbox server role in Exchange 2013. So it also hosts public folder mailbox. Unlike in Exchange Server 2010, public folder do not use separate database or separate replication mechanism. We will see more details in Module 3. So the mailbox server role in 2013 include the following new feature. So there are many new features. For example, in evaluation of Exchange 2010, the transaction log code has been refactored for fast failover. So it when we have a problem, it can rapidly resume, and it can so it can make a deep checkpoint on passive database copy. So there is what we call passive database copy. It is not the active one. So in the passive database copy, it make a deep checkpoint. That means we will analyze and find errors in the database. Also, we have servers can be in different location to support enhanced site resiliency. It is very important for example, if you have a problem in one site, so it support enhanced site resiliency. We can use another site. Also, Exchange 2013 now hosts some client access component, including the transport component and the unified messaging component. The Exchange store has been rewritten in managed code to improve performance in additional input and output reduction and reliability. And each Exchange 2013 database now runs under its own process. So it is separated process. So we have a lot of advantage for this. So when a database has a problem, it don't affect other database. Smart search replaced the Exchange 2010 multi-mailbox search infrastructure. So all of these are a major advantage of Exchange 2013 with a new feature. Now, how to mailbox server roles interact with client and the client access server. So here you have a schema to analyze. So as you know, in addition to its communication with Active Directory domain server, the mailbox server role communicate intensively with the client access server, because essentially it will be with an interaction with the client access server. This communication always takes the same path, even when the client access server role is installed on the same server as the mailbox server role. Because the client never communicates directly with the mailbox server, the client access server accepts client requests and send them to the mailbox server. The front-end transport service, which run on the client access server, accept and send message from the internet and then forward them to the hub transport service running on the mailbox server. So here you have the client access server. We have the front end transport service. We have the SMTP and SMTP. In order to so external SMTP we will receive, we'll use the hub selector. So the client access server also return the data or the content of the client mailbox from the mailbox server to the client. In addition, the client access server use what we call NetBIOS. It uses NetBIOS file sharing to access the offline address book. So this data is then served to the client through the OAB or the offline address book. So it is a virtual directory on the client access server. The client access server also send message free or busy data and client profile setting between the client server and the mailbox server. So in previous Exchange server such as Microsoft Exchange Server 2007 and 10, internal client had a direct messaging application program interface, what we call MAPI, communication with the mailbox server and the so in the mail server role in some scenarios. For example, when the client was accessing public folder in Exchange 2010, it was communicating directly with the mailbox server role in and in Exchange 2007, the internal client were directly communicating with the mailbox server role by using MIPI, messaging application program interface, for all scenarios. As you see here, it is not the same functionality. So in Exchange 2013, clients no longer communicate directly with the mailbox server. Therefore, both internal and external client communication is proxied through the client access server. So the client access server use LDAP or name service provider interface, what we call NSPI, to contact the Active Directory server and retrieve the user Active Directory information. So this is how the user get the mail. So in Exchange 2013, so the client access server, it uses LDAP or the name service provider interface or NSPI to contact the Active Directory server. So we must use LDAP and NSPI. So this for the mailbox server communication and the client access server. So the mail stored in Exchange Server 2013 consists of the following file. We have the mailbox database with the extension EDB file, EDB, the transaction log with log file, the checkpoint file, CHK, temporary file, TMP EDB, and reserve log file with GRS. So this is for the file stored in Exchange Server 2013. Administrator rarely directly interact with this file except during backup and restore procedure. So for the mailbox database EDB file, so this represents the main repository for mailbox data. This file is directly accessed by the extensible storage engine, ESE. It has a B-tree structure that helps to provide quick access and enables user to access data on any page within just one input or output cycle. For the transaction log, each operation that should be performed on the database, such as sending or receiving a message, is recorded in the transaction log file. These operations are called transactions. Operations that are communicated to the transaction log are later written to the database itself in an EDB file. Until the transaction is communicated to the mailbox database, the only existence of this data is in the RAM memory and in the transaction log. All transactions completed or incomplete are logged to maintain data integrity in case of a service interruption. Each database has its own set of transaction logs. We have ordered for a checkpoint file, store data that indicate when a transaction is successfully committed to the database. The purpose of the checkpoint file is to help the ESE to replay log file on an inconsistent database in case of database recovery. So by using information from the checkpoint file, the ESE will start with the transaction that is present in the log file, but is not yet written to the checkpoint file. So each database log prefix determine its checkpoint file name. For example, the checkpoint file name for a database with the prefix E00 would be E00 CHK. This checkpoint file is several kilobytes in size and does not grow. Fixed size. We have also temporary file, tmp.exe EDB. This is a temporary location used for processing transaction. TMP EDB contains temporary information that is deleted when all stores in the storage group are dismounted or the exchange information store service is stopped. This file does not exceed 1 megabyte. We have the also the reserve log file. We have some example here. These files are used to reserve space for additional log file if the disk that store log file becomes full. Exchange 2013 only use this file as emergency storage when the disk becomes full, and it cannot write new transaction to disk. When Exchange 2013 runs out of disk space, it writes this current transaction to disk using the space reserved by the 10 reserve transaction log, and then dismount the database. The reserved transaction log ensures minimal loss of data that is in transit to the database. The reserved transaction logs are always 1 megabit each. So we have some consideration with the database log file. For the database log file consideration, each change performed in mailbox database must be logged in the transaction log file before it is committed to the database. Each transaction log file is 1 megabit. Transaction log file deleted automatically. Circular logging can be used, but it is not recommended. So we have a guideline for log file. So regularly perform Exchange server backup. It is recommended that you make Exchange server backups. Move transaction log to a dedicated drive. Place transaction log file on a redundant disk array. You will see in the hardware we can use so redundant disk array. Ensure enough free disk space is available on the log disk, and do not use compression on the volume with the log. So it is recommended to not use compression with the volume with the log. So the transaction log is not just a file, but instead is a series of log files. So each transaction log file is exactly 1024 kilobits in size. So it is 1 megabyte. After the transaction log file becomes full, ASE closes it, remains it, and open a new transaction log file. For the naming syntax for the transaction log file, you have, for example, enn00.log. So essentially, with the extension of log. So to permanently maintain a transaction log as well as the mailbox database, it is recommended that you follow these guidelines. So regular perform Exchange server backup with the exchange aware backup software. Move transaction log to a dedicated drive that support heavy write load. That's mean the speed at least 7,200 rotation per minute. Also place transaction log file on a redundant disk array. So using redundant array of independent disk, for example, RAID technology, we will use the RAID technology. We recommended that you use RAID 1 volume and ensure that the volume that hosts the transaction log file has enough free space to store all file created between two backup cycles. So you must calculate when you backup, for example, your backup cycle is, for example, every day, every hour, and what is the volume that you will use? It depends on your use. For example, it can be from some mega to giga. Do not use compression on drive that store transaction log file. It is very important. And do not use circular logging except in a test environment. We will see now how our mailbox database are updated. So how mailbox database are updated. At the beginning, you receive a message. You will write a message to the database, but before writing the message to the database, the mailbox server write the message to the current transaction log. So here you have the transaction log and the memory cache simultaneously. At the same time, it writes the message in the transaction log and the memory cache. The mailbox server write the transaction from the memory cache to the appropriate database. So it takes its information from the memory cache to the appropriate database. The mailbox server update the checkpoint file to indicate that the transaction was committed successfully to the database. So we must check if it is committed successfully to the database. Then the client server can access and read the message in the database. At the end, so this is the end. So the client server cannot access the message until it is received, written to the log in the memory, then the database, and check it. Then the client server can read the message. So this idea to how to receive the message and to update needs an infrastructure. Okay, so here you have storage option for the Exchange Server 2013 mailbox server row. So here you have the disk storage option. You have SATA or SAS or SSD or SON. So for the Exchange Server 2013, it supports various hardware technologies for disk storage. For example, you have the serial advantage technology attachment, SATA, solid state drive SSD, and serial attached small computer system interface SCSI, known as also SAS serial attached SCSI or ISSI drive. When selecting which storage solution to use, the goal is to ensure that the storage will provide the performance that your environment require in Exchange 2013. So the disk input-output in further reduced compared to the previous version of Exchange Server. This enables you to use less expensive, slower disk and storage system without any significant decreasing of performance. When choosing a storage technology for Exchange Server, the most common choice are GBOD, DAS, and SAN. So for the GBOD, just a bunch of disk. That means just a bunch of disk. It is a collection of disks that have no redundancy or fault tolerance. So for the just a bunch of disks are usually lower cost than solution that use RAID. So to use RAID, it is expensive. So just bunch of disk adds fault tolerance by using multiple copy of the database. So I will add this definition. So this is for the just a bunch of disk, which is a collection of disks that have no redundancy or fault tolerance. As we said, it is a lower cost than RAID. Also, we have DAS, which is direct attached storage. So any disk system that is physically connected to the server. That include the hard disk inside the server or those that are connected by using external conclusion. For example, external disk enclosure can combine multiple disk in RAID 5, set that appear to the server as a single large disk. In general, does provide good performance, but it provides limited scalability because of the unit's physical size. You must manage direct attached storage on a server-by-server basis. Exchange 2013 performs well with the scalability and performance characteristics of DAS. So also for SAN, storage area network, it is a network dedicated to provides server with access to storage device. So for the SAN, provide the following benefits: a large RAM cache that disk access from becoming bottleneck, the reduce of input-output requirement of Exchange Server 2013 make it more likely that an ISCSI-based SAN or storage area network will meet your requirement in small and medium-size deployment. However, you should test all hardware configuration thoroughly before deploying to ensure that they meet your organization requirement performance characteristics. So for the SAN also highly scalable storage solution, also multiple server attached to single SAN. If you use a SAN, you can connect multiple computers that are running Exchange server and then divide the storage among them. Enhanced backup, it also recovery and availability. SANs use volume mirroring and snapshot backups. Because SANs allow you multiple connection, you can connect high performance backup devices to the SAN. SAN also allow you to designate different RAID level to different storage partition. Now for the RAID, to provide redundancy on any storage option, you have to use RAID technology. RAID increases disk access performance and fault tolerance. The most common RAID options are RAID 0, what we call stripping. It increases RAID read and write performance by spreading data across multiple disks. However, it offers no fault tolerance. Performance increase as you add more disks. So, for example, suppose you have to write at real time. If you have a disk, more it is more data you can write in your disk. You add fault tolerance by using multiple copy of the database on separate RAID sets. For the RAID 1, used for mirroring, increase fault tolerance by replacing redundant copy of data on 2 disks. Read performance is faster than the single disk, but write performance is slower than read 0. Half of the disks are used for data redundancy. So we can use read 0 if you are, for example, you need the speed. Read 1 give you a mirroring and increase the fault tolerance by placing redundant copy of data on 2 disk. So يعني نفس النسخة في 2 disk. Read 5 you have splitting with parity, increase fault tolerance by spreading data and parity information across 3 or more disks. يعني هنا read 5 then read 0 بدون نسخة احتياطية, read 1 نسخة احتياطية, read 5 3 or more disks. If one disk fails, the missing data is calculated based on the remaining disk. Read and write performance of read 5 is slower than read 0. At most, only 1/3 of the disk are used to store parity information. We have also read 0 plus 1 mirrored stripped set. So it increases fault tolerance by mirroring 2 read 0 sets. These provide very fast read and write performance and excellent fault tolerance. So we can use read 0 plus 1. And read 6, you have stripping with double parity. It increases fault tolerance by spreading data and parity information across 4 or more disks.
مهندس السلام عليكم، مساك الله بالخير.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
طال عمرك، بس عفوا انتهى وقت المحاضرة ونبغى نروح نصلي قبل المحاضرة الثانية.
Okay, so maybe just for the last one, read 1 plus 0 or read 10 mirrored set in separate stripped set provide fault tolerance and improved performance but increase complexity. هنا بالنسبة للريد عندكم الريد 0 سريع ولكن بدون نسخة احتياطية، الريد 1 نسخة احتياطية، الريد 5 3 وأكثر. هنا فيه الريد 0 and 1 فيه mirrored وstripped set، يعني هنا أسرع ريد 0 plus 1. ريد 6 stripping with double parity، يعني هنا إذا في أي إشكالية ممكن يعني إذا في إشكالية في الداتابيز نرجعوا في الداتا اللي كتبناها على الديسك. إذا الريد 1 plus 0 ولا ريد 10 mirrored set in stripped set. هذا تقريبا بالنسبة لدرس اليوم. That's all for today. Maybe we'll continue inshallah next week. The week after maybe we will have the midterm. Next week we will talk about it inshallah. Is there any question or suggestion? So I will send you maybe chapter 1 and chapter 2 by Blackboard. راح ارسل الشابتر 1 والثاني على البلاك بورد يا شباب، وممكن يكون الاختبار ان شاء الله الاسبوع السابع باذن الله. That's all for today. See you ان شاء الله next week.
يعني يا دكتور الاختبار الاسبوع القادم او اللي بعده؟
لا اللي بعده، ما هو الاسبوع القادم، لا اللي بعده.
طيب
الاسبوع الجاي راح نتحدث اكثر، راح نتحدث اكثر عن الاختبار باذن الله.
اهم شيء الشباتر يا دكتور نحصل عليها عشان المراجعه. يعطيك العافيه، شكرا لك.
باذن الله، في امان الله. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله.